Welcome back to Saga Thursday. I am Rodge. We're going to jump right into part 2 of our Moors Battle Board review. I see some more reaction type abilities as we move along here to the final column. This one is called Doubts. It's another 2-dicer using a common and an uncommon. It's an orders reaction ability. Until the end of the current turn, all enemy warlords in play. So it's kind of interesting. If you're playing a big game or something, lose their determination, which is the free activation, if I recall correctly. We obey, which is bringing the unit in, right? Or the unit gets an activation along with him. And then side by side allows you to go into combat simultaneously. In addition, the number of attack dice they generate is reduced by 2. This is a melee or shooting. So this is referring to the Warlords again? So they go from a 5, most likely, unless you're using priests, down to a 3. And they don't lose resilience. So at least they can still shed the wounds. That would be pretty gnarly if that was involved. But if you have a fighty warlord and you have fighty abilities, they're gonna miss out on that. So it's interesting. Two dice. Again, it seems pretty situational. I mean,
well, and it's like I said, any given turn you have to choose whether you're probably going to be more disruptive or more combat. So it's like Dance of Spears and Impaling Spears. They both take 2 dice, but that means you're committing to combat. This one, it's like, you know what? There's not a whole lot happening this turn. I'm just going to mess with you maybe before you get into combat, because you don't really have anything else to spend your dice on, because Song of Drums, you don't have to spend any dice on activation, just 2 commons for your entire army. So all the rest do whatever you want with them. And this one in particular, it's all warlords, so that also includes, I believe the priests are also considered warlords.
Oh, true. Yes, I would agree that this would affect them.
And it also affects, they also ruled that for the Moors Gold as well. So both warlords will take fatigue in those situations.
The priest and the warlord?
Doubts is really good versus strong warlords, obviously, where they have a plan if they're going to rush in there, they're Yams Vikings, and they're going to smash you up with their, double attacks. It does cost a lot, but one of the cool things is there are some armies out there, or some warbands, where they'll say, my game plan is to use a lot of we obeys to initiate my plan, and this just shuts it down. So maybe they've got a warrior priest and a warlord in like a pagan Russ army, and then it's like, well, I am paying 2 dice, but I'm also shutting down 2 free activations. Essentially 4 activations if you have that combo.
Yeah, that is how I run my Anglo-Saxons typically, so that would definitely shut them down. Yeah, interesting. Could be potentially brutal on those certain lists, but I don't know, for 2 dice, a lot of the time, it seems like the Warlords attacks are just kind of like a little bonus, icing on the cake. When you're going in, you're usually relying on a big unit of guys and boosting that unit rather than, so...
Yeah, the attack's never really...
annoying, but probably not going to stop them from ripping you up.
No, but...
Based off this one alone,
It can keep, though, if they're Saga dice starved and they're doing one last push to try to get somewhere, to try to contest something, you can shut it down if you're in that spot. So it keeps you safe.
Yeah, maybe towards the end of the game too, when the Warlords attacks and determination become disproportionately more useful as the units around them get more and more depleted. Those attacks are more valuable, and there's less Saga dice to do stuff, so the determination is more valuable. Because more of an end game type thing.
Yeah, because it's 2 dice, and like when you're down to like units of 2 and 3 warriors, it's like, well, I'm not gonna. What am I gonna do? Activate them to rest? No.
Okay, cool. Well, do you want to go down to the next one there? It looks like Friendly Fire.
Yeah, Friendly Fire, it's either an common or an uncommon. It's a shooting reaction again, so it's in the reaction phase. Up to half the casualties rounded up you suffer during the step 5 may be removed from an enemy unit within medium of the target unit that is not the shooting unit, instead of being removed from your unit. So if a unit of guys with javelins comes up, they throw their javelins at you, you go, ah, that hurt. But then the next unit comes up, throws their javelins at you, and that other unit's still there. If they get 3 wounds through, 2 of those wounds you can push over onto their unit instead. So they accidentally throw their javelins too early and they get their friends. The important thing, though, is it always rounds up. So if they do 1 casualty, you don't take any and the opponent takes that 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good deal. Yeah. I guess if you're going to take 1, why not have them take it? So that's fun.
And
seems like your opponent is going to see that you have that and kind of play to it, but in doing that, they might be using more dice than they want to.
Right.
Out of fear. So again, another ability that we might say, aha, you see what I've done, you won't be able to use your friendly fire, but it took me 3 extra Saga dice to move all these units out of the way, which, you got me.
Yeah, and friendly fire is not, like, good, but it's the only shooting defense we have. So you can make use of it sometimes. We're still going to suffer against mass shooting, especially if we've got those, kind of crappy guys on their horses, or even slow foot dudes. Even with Song of Drums, you're still only moving that 1 or 2 a turn. So,
okay,
just what we got.
Little something, yeah. At least it works basically automatically. You don't have to roll any dice or anything. If they get 1 through, and they have the unit, boom, they're gonna get the first one. So okay. Last one here, Betrayal. We're looking at the double rares. It's got to be good. It has to be. There's never been a double rare that's not amazing.
Right.
I'm not sure if that's the case, but orders, ability, designate an enemy warriors or levy unit made of up to 6 models, and that is more than medium away from its warlord. So another little interesting niggle there in the distances between the enemy troops. Until the end of the current turn, this unit is considered part of your warband, and if he is not exhausted, the enemy warlord may take 3 fatigues to cancel this ability. Okay, so you've got these guys under your control. I guess you still have to spend Saga dice and everything, right? To push them around, get them going.
Yeah.
So
this is also one that can benefit from corruption. So if you, on your turn, roll a rare and a common, you can put a rare on Betrayal on your turn and not use it, and put that common on corruption, and then on their turn you can turn it over, and then on your next turn you can use it. So it's looking a few turns ahead, but it's an option.
Interesting. So you're capped at 6 models. So that seems to be somewhat of a kicker here, because you're limited to warriors and levies, so the potential of these guys isn't really going to be that much.
The threat of it is more like you just hope that your opponent doesn't really know that it's useless, and they change their deployment strategy to make their units more than 6. If they were running minimum size warrior units, they might buff 1 up and lose a Saga dice out of the deal. But other than that, there's only really 2 uses that I have found for this. Effective. One is it's never combat, so I never fight with the enemy unit, because you're already using 2 rare dice. And if you're trying to move any of your own stuff, that's 2 for Song of Drums. So you have 2 dice left, maybe. So the first option is if the enemy is like Spanish or steppe tribes, and they've got units of small horsemen. What you do is you take control of them, you move them straight into the woods.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
So you activate them once, get them right up against the woods, activate them a second time, and all of a sudden they've got 3 fatigue or something, And anytime they try to move out, they're going to get another fatigue, and it's just a mess. So you could potentially take a warrior unit just completely out of the game using this. Not the best use of your Saga dice, but if you have a turn to burn, if they're like icing you or staying way away, that's an option. The other option, which is kind of unique, is bards and troubadours are considered warriors, and they're a unit of 1. So you take that bard. So you take that bard that's right next to your warlord, ram him into a unit of Hearthguard, your bard dies, and then everybody takes a fatigue.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's interesting that you said you don't ever get them into melee, because that seems to be like the best part of it would be if you get them into melee, no matter who, you have enemies on both sides, so both people are getting killed, and they can't win necessarily.
Well, the problem is it's 6 warriors. So what do 6 warriors kill? Generally not a whole lot, especially if they're getting charged. Well, they're going to fight defensive, so nobody's going to die on either side. And they're going to burn the fatigue because they don't care. So they might come out of it with less fatigue and no lost models that they started a combat with, and you just spent 2 or 3 dice to do it.
That's a good point. So I'd probably be looking more to those 1 or 2 man warrior units that are hanging out back there. Move them up, and you could do a fatigue bomb, same thing as one of those other units, because if they die, they would still generate a fatigue, since they count as being friendlies.
Yeah, but if you're swirling around in a combat where there's only a few models with 1 or 2 left, the chance of having 2 rares just laying around will be pretty low. I
would agree with that. So, okay, mixed stuff here, although I would say if you were playing some Aetius and Arthur and we're up against some Atakati warriors, 6 of those guys would generate 18 attacks, so that could be pretty good. Otherwise, with the Franks and the Merovingians, I think the Saxons are warriors, and they generate an extra attack on the charge, I believe. So there might be some situational super warriors or something like that.
Yeah, or like Dalam do that as well. That's a good point.
Yeah, or if they have, if you're playing against the Mutts or something, they have a little unit with a Nafatoon guy, right? Yeah. That might be another small, kind of a special unit that is small but can potentially do some nasty stuff.
Yeah, because I think the Nafatoon
disproportionately to the unit size.
I don't know if the Nafatoon count as Hearthguard or not. That'd be a weird one. I think they probably count as warriors. Yeah,
when they attach? I mean, they could attach to Hearthguard, but you would typically attach to warriors because they can blow up and kill your own guys, so you wouldn't want to have it be Hearthguard.
Well, Hearthguard are too smart to have Nafatoon attached to them.
Okay, yeah. I think
too scared to have them attached.
I think so. So yeah, they count it as warriors, I would say. So if they had some Nafatoon, you'd definitely be messing with their minds. You need to keep it.
Or if you're playing Sacred Ground and all your stuff's on one side, and you got those 4 annoying levies that are just sitting on that one, and you could just push them off. If you just randomly rolled 2 rares in a late turn.
Okay. Yeah, so I think just talking, we've come up with 6 or 8 situations where it could be good, but still, just in a typical battle, with average stuff, you're probably, this isn't going to factor huge into your sneaky battle plan, most likely, especially for the 2 rares when you have Moor's Gold.
Yeah.
And I like Fury of Swords as well for those rares. I'd probably be prioritizing those 2 over this particular one.
Oh, yeah.
But if you had a hell of a turn where you roll those 4 or 5 rares, maybe.
Right.
Fun to mess with the opponent's mind. So, okay, so we've gone through everything. So you kind of talked about people typically going for the 5 points of warriors and then something else. Is that usually what you take? It's so interesting. Based off the unit choices, you'd be like, oh, we got a shooty shooty board, messing with the opponent board on our hands, but it pushes you towards the warriors, and then there's certain abilities that are kind of go-to. This kind of makes me think of my Anglo-Saxons, where I have these big units and I kind of use the same abilities every turn, and it works fine. It's just not the funnest board from that perspective, where you feel like you have to use these abilities because these ones are the way to go, and don't mess with those other ones because they're not as good. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's true in some respects. I think the Moors are the most solid, regular Islamic faction in the book, and that's kind of why I chose them. Is like, okay, they don't have some weird martyrdom mechanic, or like the Saracens where it's all like completely random stuff. So they're just a solid, basic Islamic army, which is why I chose them to begin with. My loadout is the 5 warriors. And then a unit of Nafatoon, because when Nafatoon join units, that unit does not count as being armed with a ranged weapon.
Oh, true. Yeah, that's a really good point. So, I'm seeing the possibilities here.
Yep.
Yeah, natural fit with these guys.
Oh yeah.
For sure, based off that. So you get your ranged weapon. Typically one Nafatoon attack is, the real bonus there is typically the fatigue, but the damage output is actually the same as like a whole unit of warriors or Javelin films anyways.
And Nafatoon get to ignore step 3, so all those shooting reaction armies, you don't have any real shooting in your army, so all of those board abilities are ignored. Pagan Run, anything that limits long range shooting, yours is only short, so it doesn't affect that. All of your units are moving, so you can spread your Nafatoon between all of the units that you have, because you can Song of Drums all of them up and shoot all of them with the same activation.
That's pretty awesome.
And with Discord, once they have that fatigue, they have to keep it. Otherwise, you just move it around or double it as they try to rest.
Yeah, that's a really good point there with the Nafatoon. Have you seen people use the Hearthguard or even the crossbow levies?
Some people will use the Hearthguard. They'll run it just a little brick of 4. It's only 1 Saga dice, so it doesn't break the bank, and they just save it for kind of late game harassment or kind of flying out on the edges and doing stuff. But I think if you're going to use the board, you got to use the board. The only thing that I will say, and some people might not know this, is there's a new rule with the FAQ whenever that came out that's called Andalusian Jeannettes, and that allows you to flip the warband structure a little bit on its head. So if you have more mounted units, so it still has the same unit structure and composition. Okay. But if you have more mounted units in your warband than you have foot units, all of those mounted units exchange their javelins for composite bows.
Oh, wow. Those
are
a little better.
Again, you still lose 3 or 4 or 5 of your battle board abilities. So you're playing with half a battle board, but you're still Islamic faction. You still have some of those good abilities on there, but I don't know. It's a different way to play, but you're also kind of handicapped.
Yeah, you really. 3 of the 4, or 4 of the 10 abilities, you're not really getting anything out of, or your bang for your buck is really limited going that route. That's interesting. And then the levies with bows.
I think I would pick bows over crossbows, just because if you ever they would just get exhausted so quickly, especially if there's any battle board abilities the opponent has to put a fatigue on. It's like, well, I'm not even going to shoot him because I'll just be exhausted.
That's true. So you're not really getting much out of that, and there isn't. The way that they mess with you is just adding fatigues to units. It's not stopping units from moving the way that the Spanish would say. which is how they keep their mounted units alive. You know, they
Right.
move them away with free moves or stop you from doing stuff, or you know, you can only get a single activation with this unit, and that's how they keep their mounted guys alive. Where your guys, you know, if they don't follow your plans, they're getting extra fatigues on their warlord or, you know, extra units, but it's not protecting your cavalry from being butchered.
Right.
Which
And your cavalry is so weak as it is because they've got that extra pip of defense.
It's kind of weird because, you know, I don't think I've ever seen where the melee got the ding as well.
Yeah.
For being mounted, and it, you know, even if they didn't have that penalty, they still wouldn't really be that useful. Based off the board abilities, the Hearthguard would be nice because it's just nice having a unit that can move 12 and dish out 8 precise attacks. You know, when you need it would be nice, but with the list as is, those guys, you can do that, but they might be dead at the end of it because they just have armor 4.
Right.
So, yeah, kind of interesting. But I mean, you went to Adepticon. You did well with the warrior horde. So you went with the warrior, say, to paint like 40, 45 models. Is that what it comes out to for the 6 points, including the Napatan?
Yep. So Alibaba and his 40 thieves running around.
Did you use the gripping beast plastics, or did you use metals, or what did you use?
Yeah, I used the plastics. Then I just used, I think, some Perry miniatures for the Napatan and the Warlord. But yeah, it was so the 5 warriors, the Napatan, and then I was debating this for my Warlord, but I actually went with a warrior priest Warlord. It generates 1 less Saga dice than a typical Warlord, but I didn't need that because I had so many warriors. And the Blade That Punishes is really good because it takes any Saga dice. And for this board, a lot of times you don't use the uncommon dice very much. There's like a few like holes in the board where it's like you roll a certain dice. It's like, I would never use this in a certain matchup. So you just chuck that garbage dice into that one. And then if you combine the Blade That Punishes with the Fury of Swords, all of a sudden you're just getting a truckload of attack dice.
Yeah, you might be, you know, if you're using those 10, like a 10-man unit to get a nice roundup for Fury of Swords, you get 4 from that, and then you'd be looking at 5 attack dice, I think, as the bonus for that. So you'd be basically 19 attack die. Yeah, with that, that's not too shabby at all. Yeah, I like the warrior priest, and anytime you're taking the big foot slogger units, you're gonna do well with that guy. Interesting. Any particular scenarios that you enjoy as playing as the Moors, or scowl, shake your head with despair when you see?
The Moors really like the ones that cause people to spread out. So Sacred Ground, Battle of the Ford, anything, or there's the one where the Warlords in the center and there's like a impassable terrain on the outside. I think it's one of Eric Hagen's. So anything that causes the enemy to be disrupted. So a lot of times you'll use a lot of terrain if you can. So anything that causes the opponent to split, because let's say Battle of the Ford, their Warlord has to be at 1 and essentially abandon the other so that you can't even cross it. So that gives you a chance to rush over and attack one or the other. The ones that aren't so good are like the straight combat ones, because we just don't have the ability to just run up and punch people in the face as hard as the Motoia or Pagan Russ. They'll just punch you and you just sit there and take it.
Basically, if you're not using the warrior priest to generate those extra attack dice, Fury of Swords, that's your biggest buff, is going to be 4 extra attack dice, which isn't typically going to cut the mustard.
Or like if your Warlord is in the duel, it's like, well, I could give him 1 extra attack dice and 1 extra defense dice for a rare, or use the combat pool.
Not too much going on there. Interesting. Okay, so when you're playing against the Moors, what would you say? Turtle up and face the Discord to avoid the Moors gold, would you say?
I mean, it obviously depends on your matchup. I think that ignoring your Warlord's fatigue and just doing whatever you want is important. Obviously, I think focusing fire on the Noctune units, if the opponent's running Noctune, are kind of the key things. Trying to whittle down individual units if they don't have Noctune, so they don't get those Fury of Swords benefits from there as well. So they're a tough one because they got a lot of different options to just kind of mess with people in different situations.
Different ways. Okay.
The other thing you can do is kind of hem them in quick. So if you can get your mounted Hearthguard up and around them quicker, then they can't gain ground and scenarios where we need to move up. So we're just moving medium. So
okay, a little slower potentially if you're going the route that works best with the board. So okay, good deal. Well, I think that about wraps it up. Any closing thoughts here about the Moors? So you played them at this last Adepticon. Will they be hitting the battlefield again anytime soon?
They might. I would like to paint up a few extras and run the Saracens. I think they're kind of neat, and they've got a few rules that can make them less random, or I could just go full random and see what they do. But,
well, I haven't gotten to that review yet, so I'll have to take a look and see. I kind of know what the Mutadwi are about, but I wasn't aware of the Moors. You're the only person I knew that played them, and then I haven't seen anybody with the Saracens, so they're kind of a mystery for me, along with the Crusaders at this point. I've only kind of glanced at those boards, haven't dug in deep. So thanks for coming on, letting us know about the Moors. Always good to hear your perspective, and you're a good opponent in all the game systems that we play. And I always enjoy it when you can make it over to my neck of the woods and we can play those basement games. Those are pretty fun. Good learning experiences for sure. And awesome. So I know you've got a kid on the way. So good luck with that. But hopefully you'll still be able to make it out for Wapaka there. Maybe we'll get some games in then. There's no Saga officially on the docket, but I bet if we bring our models, we might just find some time to get a game in there. So thanks again for coming on. I'm sure we will reconnect as the Saga 2.0 stuff comes out. Are you pretty excited for Saga 2?
I was initially a little bit hesitant, but it sounds like it'll be pretty much the same. Okay. So I'm excited.
Yeah, hopefully more of the same that we like, but then just better too. It will be interesting to see how the Crescent and Cross stuff is handled, because they mentioned it's going to be a separate book, but then they also mentioned that the books are going to come out every year or so or something like that. So if they release the game system, the core book, a scenario book, and then the Dark Ages book, we're going to be in the lurch with Crescent and Cross stuff for a year until those come out. Is there going to be I'm sure there'll probably be a FAQ interim in the meantime. We can still play for sure, but it'd be nice if they could hurry that one along as well. Because people, can't buy in. I don't know if they're going to be good still. But okay, good deal. Well, it's getting late. I'm gonna call this and have a good one. I'll chat with you again real soon.
Yeah, see you, Rodge. Have a good one.
Bye-bye. Saga.